Supreme Court orders return of wrongly deported Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, 34. Entered the United States legally in 2019 on a humanitarian parole program and was later granted temporary protected status, along with a valid work permit. A native of El Salvador, Abrego Garcia fled his home country due to persistent threats from gangs and political instability. He had been living in Maryland, working as a landscaper, and had no criminal record. Despite being under legal protection and having an ongoing court case challenging the potential revocation of his TPS, Abrego Garcia was arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents in February 2025 during a routine check-in. His attorneys swiftly obtained a stay of removal from a federal immigration judge, effectively halting any deportation proceedings while his case was under review. However, in what has now been admitted by government officials as an administrative error, Abrego Garcia was placed on a deportation flight to El Salvador on March 15, 2025, upon arrival. He was detained by Salvadoran authorities and transferred to the notorious Terrorism Confinement Center, a maximum security facility known for harsh conditions and overcrowding. The deportation triggered a legal and constitutional battle, with Abrego Garcia's attorneys petitioning the federal courts for immediate intervention. Civil rights organizations, including the American Civil Liberties Union and the National Immigrant Justice Center, joined the legal fight, citing grave violations of due process and the risk of serious harm to Abrego Garcia in El Salvador. The case quickly moved up the judicial chain, culminating in an emergency hearing before the Supreme Court. The Trump administration argued that the courts lacked the authority to compel the executive branch to undo a deportation, even if it was executed in error. Solicitor General Richard Walden maintained that while the deportation was regrettable, the judiciary had no constitutional mechanism to order a foreign national's return from another country. Supreme Court decision. In a 9-0 decision authored by Chief Justice John Roberts, the Supreme Court categorically rejected the administration's stance. The opinion emphasized that constitutional protections, including due process and judicial oversight, do not end at the border, and that courts retain the authority to enforce compliance with their orders, even post-deportation. The notion that the executive branch can unilaterally circumvent judicial rulings and deport individuals in defiance of court orders is both legally untenable and dangerous to the very fabric of our constitutional democracy, wrote Chief Justice Roberts. Mr. Abrego Garcia's removal, in clear violation of an active judicial stay, constitutes a breach of the rule of law that this court cannot and will not ignore. The court instructed the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State to take all necessary diplomatic and logistical measures to secure Abrego Garcia's safe return to the United States without delay. Reactions and implications. Immigrant advocacy groups lauded the decision as a victory for justice and accountability. This ruling affirms that no one, not even the president, is above the law, said Mary Elena, executive director of the National Immigration Law Center. Kilmar Abrego Garcia should never have been deported, and the Supreme Court has sent a clear message that such violations will not be tolerated. Legal scholars also praised the ruling as a reaffirmation of the judiciary's essential role in checking executive overreach. This case will become a cornerstone in immigration jurisprudence, said Professor Miguel Salinas of Georgetown Law. It reinforces the fundamental principle that due process applies to everyone within U.S. jurisdiction, regardless of immigration status. However, the ruling also exposes deeper systemic issues within the immigration enforcement apparatus. Internal audits revealed that miscommunication between ICE field offices and the Executive Office for Immigration Review contributed to the erroneous deportation. Critics argue that this case highlights the urgent need for reforms to ensure greater accountability and transparency within DHS, family and community response. Abrego Garcia's family, who remained in Maryland during the ordeal, expressed relief and cautious optimism following the Supreme Court's decision. His wife, Lydia, who is also under TPS, said the past few weeks had been a nightmare. "Every night I went to sleep not knowing if he was safe or even alive," she told local reporters through tears. "We are grateful to the justices for recognizing the injustice that happened. We just want him home." Members of the local community have organized support vigils, fundraising efforts, and legal aid drives in anticipation of his return. Religious leaders and civil rights advocates have also called for broader reforms to prevent similar incidents from recurring. Next steps: the Department of Homeland Security confirmed that it is working in coordination with the Department of State to arrange Abrego Garcia's return. Sources within the State Department indicate that diplomatic discussions with the Salvadoran government are ongoing, the expectation that he will be repatriated within the next 10 days. In the meantime, Abrego Garcia remains in custody at the Terrorism Confinement Center. Human rights monitors are calling for his immediate release and humanitarian assistance, citing concerns over the facility's conditions and the psychological toll of wrongful detention. Broader context: this case comes amid a broader debate over the scope of executive power in immigration enforcement and the rights of non-citizens. The Trump administration has faced criticism for aggressive deportation tactics and efforts to curtail judicial oversight of immigration decisions. In recent months, advocacy groups have documented a rise in wrongful detentions, expedited removals, and procedural irregularities. Congressional leaders have taken note of the Supreme Court's decision. Senator Alex Padilla announced plans to introduce legislation that would mandate stricter compliance protocols for ICE and provide stetal protections for immigrants facing removal. "We must ensure that what happened to Mr. Abrego Garcia never happens again," Padilla said in a statement. Conclusion: the wrongful deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia has become a national flashpoint, exposing critical flaws in the U.S. immigration system and igniting renewed calls for reform. The Supreme Court's decisive ruling offers a measure of justice and reaffirms the foundational principles of due process and judicial oversight, as the nation awaits Abrego Garcia's safe return. His story serves as a powerful reminder of the human cost of bureaucratic failure and the enduring strength of the rule of law.
The courts, we had a good decision, as you know, from the Supreme Court allowing us to do that. We have judges that didn't want us to do it. We have judges that wanted the very evil gang members from Trendy, Araqua, and MS-13. They didn't want them taken out of the country and put in very powerful prisons. When you look, you've all seen those clips. They're pretty amazing clips. But I want to thank El Salvador. They've done an incredible job. But we've been fortunately winning those cases. But we have judges that are out of control that say, "Oh, bring them back, bring them back." We don't want them back. We don't want them back. Can you imagine? You spend all of that time, energy, and money on getting them out, and then you have a judge that sits there, a local judge who sits there, federal judges, sit there and says, "No, bring them back." One was brought back, or they want to bring him back because he wasn't a member of Tren de Araqua. He was a member of MS-13, which is just as bad. So they misidentified him, but it sounds to me like he was a member of MS-13, so they want him brought back because he wasn't treated properly. It's we got to be smart. Our country's got to get a lot smarter than it is, but we have to give the people that are empowered to do this kind of work, and it's not pleasant work. We have to give them the option of making our country great again, and that's what they're doing.